The following is a presentation of the Best Station. The views and comments made in the following program do not necessarily represent the views and comments of the Best Station.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fast Pitch Game 12. I'm your co-host, MC Brown.
And Eric Lenneberg.
The Doctor of Baseball. We're both here, and after a little bit of a break, we return with Game 12. We're 42 days from opening day, which means 0 days spring training. We're already in the middle of it.
We're in the middle right now. Pitchers and catchers reported last week.
And we're in the middle of February, which is a great month here, as it is the eve of Major League Baseball getting into high gear. And the Fast Pitch is here to give it to you straight. We got a lot of news here today. We're going to get right into our social media, too. And just as a quick plug, we can, as always, be reached on @The Fast Pitch MLB on Twitter, Facebook.com/The Fast Pitch. And as always, we are on our good personal longtime friend,
Craig Best.
TheBestStation.net. All of our shows are archived there. And if you wanted to send Craig a thank you, on behalf of us, as we do normally, you can also send him a message on Facebook.com/TheBestStation and give Craig a shout out. So we're going to jump right in, Doctor. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes, we do. A full plate today.
As usual, social media in effect. We have a little bit of just as to let you guys know, we're splitting kind of our usual format up into Game 12 here, and shortly thereafter we'll be recording Game 13. So some of your usual segments that you'll find on this show here will be actually on our next show, and that's because we got a great guest.
We do. We have a special guest, Seth Swirsky.
Seth Swirsky will be interviewed. Part 1 will be today, be recorded on this show, and on our second half, which is Game 13, that second half of that interview will take place along with a few of our other segments, and we'll talk about that more as we get rolling.
Right.
So, our first social media question, I'm going to be handling them all for this show, is from our regular listener, Casimir Girl 26.
Here she is again. Okay.
Your favorite fan.
Do I need to be wearing a bulletproof vest today?
You need to be wearing a bullseye so she could just shoot arrows at you. But Casimir Girl 26 says, she's in a better mood, looks like here. Who can I thank for that wonderful Scott Casimir ad last show? Certainly not Nurse Baseball.
Certainly not.
Yes,
I agree
that
there.
would be our great personal friend and producer, Craig Best. Actually, for digging that up. What a classic ad he brought to the table, and Casimir Girl is just blushing. We can just see right through his
and I'm sure that baseball they showed in the ad, she probably quickly bought and has it in
the screen,
a shrine in her house to Scott Casimir, one of the more mediocre pitchers in the major leagues.
After this, you will be targeted again. So, yes, thank Craig Best. As we had stated, Casimir Girl 26, you can go right to Facebook and thank him personally. In fact, we urge all of our listeners to definitely go to thebeststation.net, give a listen to all the great stuff Craig has there. Music Guru, our brothers in podcasting, the Comicasters, which I may be a part of as well, and take a listen to those great shows as well, and definitely give Craig a shout out. And we're going to move right on to our next one, and I don't know if we're getting some flack here, but @NoFairBlair Douglas asks, will you ever give someone else a chance to win trivia besides that cocky Chuck Boyer? Oh, wow.
Chuck Boyer taking a hit here.
Yes, Chuck, and we can't advocate this. Chuck, great listener of our show. He definitely is a quick listener, but we're not going to bag on Chuck. But what we will say, no fair, Blair, is this last show actually marked the end of Trivia Appointment, and we actually will be debuting a new segment next show called Fast Pitch Feud,
which will still have great prizes for the winners.
Yes, sir, and we're going to announce some of the rules later on this show, and we'll actually debut the questions that we will be revealing. It'll be a little bit different, a little fair for you fans The winner who gets the most points, we'll discuss this later. I don't want to give too much away right now. So as the show moves on, Doctor, we will reveal this. And
yes.
Great fun, and some of the feedback we've already gotten towards this new way of doing things for our trivia is positive so far.
Very popular. Very popular already.
We're excited for it, and no fair, Blair. You will not have to make up any more names nor call Chuck Boyer names again. So.
That's right. Chuck is a good friend and a faithful listener.
Yes, so I don't even think No Fair is his real name. But Blair, don't worry about it, Blair. We got you covered.
Yeah.
All right, final social media question. Ed the Red Ortiz. I'm really missing the interview, guys. Any special guests coming up? Funny you should mention that.
Yes, it is.
And why don't you tell us this, Seth Swirsky, but not only that, we got special surprises for you, 2 of them this show, and we don't want to reveal too much, obviously, again, but we have some special guests on this show.
That's right,
Ed.
That's
so
right.
We definitely want you guys to stay tuned. Obviously, you guys are listening, so you want to stay for this entire show. We have some special former Major League players here that we'll be having on this show, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
A couple of former stars, in fact.
Yes, so definitely, we're listening to you fans, and we got this show is chock full of stuff here. So, and just to plug again, we can be reached at the Fast Pitch MLB. We actually have a question for you guys. It's on the eve of spring training. We want to know, what is your favorite spring training memory? And we have our own, and we're going to hopefully tease having a special, hopefully press box reunion show coming up in the next month or so with some of our former press box mates when me and the Doctor were doing our press box duties back in the day. And we're hoping to share some of those memories for you guys.
Yes, and it's funny about that. Most of the time when we get together with people who we worked with over the years, the memories that we have are nothing to do with what happened on the field.
I know, and that's going to be a lot of fun to discuss that, as well as what's going on, hopefully, if we can get close to a game. And we're going to share ours, but we want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite spring training memory? Was the first time you seen a game with your dad, your mom, whatever? What happened? Did you have a player just really surprise you during that game? We want to hear it, so we want to hear from you guys.
Did you have any conversations with players?
Yes.
That type of thing.
Bad experiences, signings. Right. Did you have a crazy ball hawk run into you and knock you over as a child? Whatever you want to hear. It would not probably be your favorite. It would probably be your least favorite, but whatever it is, we want to hear from you, and we will definitely.
Didn't that happen to our friend Tony? He got run over. It was Smokey Robinson.
No, that's it.
That's right. That wasn't.
Hopefully that story could be told on our grounds crew edition with our good friend Tony. So hopefully Tony's listening, and we give him a shout out, and we'd love to speak to him. And so we got things in the works. So definitely we want to hear from you guys. So let us know your favorite spring training memory, and we're not going to waste no time, Doctor. We're going to jump right now.
Yes, let's go
into the MLB Newswire. Hopefully we're not too rapid fire on this, but we've got a lot of stuff going on from our last show, and on this MLB Newswire, we're going to jump into a lot of things here. To get to the first topic, we have Jeurys Mejia is banned for life.
Banned for life for his.
Speak a little bit about what happened there.
Third offense of being found using PEDs in the major leagues, and you remember Mejia really blew through the playoffs and was one of the reasons the Mets made it to the World Series. And he was doing things like being the closer and yet throwing 2 innings in the playoffs. And I'm not going to say anything about maybe he was using during the playoffs, but he certainly stepped up his game late in the season.
What a shame here, but you do the crime, you're going to do the time.
So he's gone.
Unfortunately, banned for life as of this time. I mean, it can appeal, but we just don't know. You can't just keep doing infractions. And
I know, and after the third time, there's no appeal.
I don't know. Okay,
baseball says it's over.
I guess he's done then officially. So that's a shame. Definitely a shame for the Mets who are now scrambling to replace him probably as closer. And
especially. The free agent closes that were around are all signed.
Yes, and one of the other, potentially he's a former Met, but he's now in the Diamondbacks. Tyler Clippard signs a 2-year deal, and his name might be in the mix for closer for the Diamondbacks, competing with their closer, obviously.
Brad Ziegler, Tyler Clippard closed for the Nationals, and he closed for the A's last year. He has a solid career.
Played for
and
the
I could see the Diamondbacks possibly using Ziegler and Clippard depending on the lineup they're facing. Ziegler a left-hander, Clippard a right-hander.
Most definitely. they're gonna have to look. Maybe a trade might be on the horizon. I mean, they're definitely more in the hunt with their signing of Cespedes, as we talked about last show. So, but you need a good closer. We all know that. You can't be blowing games at the end of the crucial games for the NL
In
East
this
here.
era, it's pitching, relief pitching, and defense that leads the way for winning teams.
Yes, and that's very crucial. So that's a big hit for the Mets. Some other bad news before we get into other ones. Or I would say, in the news, there's some speculation that Jose Reyes, Aroldis Chapman, and Yasiel Puig could be suspended for the new domestic violence policy that MLB has in place. So that's another thing to ask you fans. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, are these bans too severe? Do you feel they're not severe enough? Should they actually be served time during the season and not just spring training? But this isn't a done deal, but there's heavy speculation during this, so this has been in the news. So
and I commend Commissioner Rob Manfred for making sure this policy was implemented. You can't have domestic violence anywhere, especially among role models.
We do not condone this, and that's obviously not what we're advocating. We definitely, probably any punishment is probably not severe enough.
That's how I feel.
If they're, convicted stuff, I know in Aroldis' case, he already said he would appeal.
Right.
And he was not, in his defense, he was not proven guilty of anything. Obviously, he was exonerated of his charges.
That's true.
But obviously, the commissioner is trying to set a precedent. He doesn't want any player's name attached to anything at all, and I can't blame him there. And there's no excuse for behavior. There's a certain policy that I'd say conduct that these players should be adhering to in Major League Baseball. And
absolutely,
you got to keep a low profile. If you can't, be in the news for good things, then you better make sure you're staying away from trouble, not garnering it. So hopefully, if there is punishment, that's the end of it for them. But we don't condone that, and we certainly hope that if it is, punishment for that, it's just due. But if it's not severe, or if you have heavy thoughts on it, fans, we want to hear from you. So let us know, because this is definitely a hot topic that we will discuss again, I'm sure.
Most certainly.
Because unfortunately, it's part of all sports. That you have some players who just can't stay away from trouble.
Right, they can't control their emotions, their anger, whatever.
Yeah, and to get away from that, we got some more signings. We had a trade. The A's acquired Chris Davis from the Brew Crew, and for a catching prospect, I believe it was Jacob Nottingham, I think.
Jacob Nottingham.
Yeah, huge
Chris Davis.
prospect.
This is the Chris Davis, Khris, not to be confused with the Orioles first baseman.
Chris Davis.
Now, it's funny, Craig Best and I have talked about this. We worked for the Brewers together, and we've often said Chris Davis belonged in the American League. He's definitely a hitter. He had a breakout season 2 years ago, but he should be a DH because
not known for his
having seen him many times, Craig and I agree that when Chris Davis is in the outfield and a ball is hit, it's like a Navy recruit. Not just a job, it's an adventure.
And he is. I was about to say he's not known for his defense, and that was actually potentially could be DHing, but I think maybe plug him in a corner, maybe in the A's, and maybe
will
split some time with some of the other guys that will be in the A's outfield. I think Mark Canha is I think he's right-hand hitting, if I'm correct.
Yes,
Chris Davis is lefty, right? So that's a platoon candidate right there. But Chris Davis has shown a lot of power in his young career so far, so he could just be manning one of those spots until a DH spot maybe opens up. But one of the other names in there, which I thought is funny mentioning, is one of the great, and this is another maybe topic for a future show of funny baseball names, is Bubba Derby.
Bubba Derby
was a pitcher acquired also by the Brewers in that, so maybe we'll see Bubba Derby in the pitching for the...
Yes, and whenever I hear Bubba Derby, I right away think of the Cincinnati Reds reliever Jumbo Diaz. Bubba and Jumbo.
Bubba and Jumbo should be a tag team. Maybe one day they will. But could be a trade precursor for Jonathan Lucroy, right?
That's
you had
right.
mentioned having maybe a potential scoop, and I don't know if you want to reveal that here, but...
Well, let's just put it this way. Lucroy is moving, and I would say before opening day.
Could be a team very close to the Southwest.
Could be a team maybe even in the American League.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. The doctor's got his scoops, but he's not whistling Dixie yet. He's not blowing the whistle off this. So definitely take a look at that. Speaking of those speaking of the Texas Rangers, we have
almost blew it there, MC.
They
took
signed
the wind right out of my sails.
Jeremy Guthrie, and he is also now signed with the Rangers. We have their former pitcher. This is a fresh news. Their former player. he signed with the Orioles, that would be Giovanni Gallardo. He is now a Baltimore Oriole, formerly of the Texas Rangers
Orioles
and
made
Brewers.
A pitch for a lot of players this year and didn't get all that many.
No, but they're linked now also to potentially, this is on the scoop of possibly happening, is Dexter Fowler. And a couple shorter deals. Gallardo signed for 3 years, and he doubled his money. I think it was a little over $35 million. He doubled the money he would have gotten in taking the qualifying offer from the Rangers, and he got which I think would have been $15.5 million.
Right.
And so he did make some money. He didn't lose out by waiting too long, although possibly a bigger deal may have been in the works had he found this team.
When you're talking about Jeremy Guthrie and Giovanni Gallardo, these are two guys who are much, much more stellar pitchers than Scott Kazmir, so they're going to get paid accordingly.
I don't know about Guthrie, but you're just asking for it.
No, Kazmir is...
Someone could, take a boxing glove to your face. I think it would be Kazmir.
Yeah, once again, I'm glad we have security in the parking lot here. That's all I can say.
But yeah, in all seriousness, Gallardo is, I think, is an underrated pitcher, and maybe you waited too long. I don't know. Maybe he could be a trade candidate, depending. I think with the signing of Chris Davis, maybe with Fowler too, is also a solid player. They might surprise some people. Maybe get higher than what I picked him. I don't know.
And this is the first time I've heard about Fowler for a while.
Yeah,
we wondered why he was still out there.
And there's so many big names, obviously, before we get into more some of these signings. Speaking of those same Rangers, they're linked to Drew Stubbs more than they are Dexter Fowler. But Drew Stubbs still out there. He was formerly of the Rockies. David Freese still available.
Freese, again, Craig Best and I were talking about that. Here's a third baseman that a lot of teams, you would think, would like. Solid player. He's been a clutch player. Why is he out there?
I don't know. Ian Desmond's still out there. There was rumors with the White Sox, but that's not a done deal. I don't know if that's done. Yeah, and the Padres was earlier. That's dead because they signed Alexi Ramirez. But, when you got some of these guys playing, still on the market, are they pricing themselves out? A guy was traded, released, and signed with the team before some of these guys, like Brendan Ryan, who was released by the Cubs after that trade. He signed with the Nationals. A lot of these guys in some minor league deals or just smaller deals are getting it done. The Royals signed Mike Minor, and his potential candidate is for bounce back candidate for possibly by June. And he's a reclamation project, just like Chris Medlin and a couple other guys they had signed. The Royals are trying to go the inexpensive route, obviously, but
they always really have. And yet built a World Series champion.
But think about this. The O's got Gallardo for less than what the Royals are paying Ian Kennedy, which arguably you would say Gallardo is a superior pitcher.
Wow. Yes, I didn't realize that.
Both say that. So, that's pretty crazy stuff going on there. Some other deals, the Chi Sox, speaking of them, who, linked to Ian Desmond, they in between last shows, they signed on a very inexpensive deal trying to get a bounce-back candidate there, Matt Latos. He's going to be a potential rotation candidate. They're only paying a few million for him, which, looking by your expression, is probably a few million too much.
Few million too much. Last year, he came to the Dodgers at the trade deadline as one of the starters. He had about 3 starts. He got rocked, got released, and signed by the Angels, and released by them.
And but just goes to show you, if you can throw, you'll get some millions. And he's got a $3 million deal with the White Sox.
That is incredible. He should be paying them $3 million.
We may find out. They also signed, the Chi Sox signed Travis Ishikawa.
Travis Ishikawa. Remember him from the Blue Jays?
I think he was on. Was he also with the Pirates?
He was. He's the guy that is the happiest man in baseball.
And he's on the White Sox. He's a lot happier now. He's got a team before some of these other guys.
He's one of those guys. I saw an interview with him maybe 2 years ago. He was thanking the fans, thanking his team, and just happy to be here in the major leagues.
Interesting. Well, that's good. Good for him. Well, hopefully he'll do something for one of my teams, the Chi Sox here. Just throw some other names out here, and we're trying to go through these fast, so keep up with you folks, just to let you know, because we got a lot of them, especially during this time of the year. Padres, they signed Skip Schumacher, who was a good utility man back in the day. Maybe he can bounce back here. Fernando Rodney, I think I don't know if we did mention it last show, but I think it was on the cusp. He's a potential closer for them. I think it actually got inked for sure. I don't know if that was a rumor last time in our last show, but Rodney definitely is going to be on the Padres as well. We got some other names. We keep going back to the Rangers. Funny how that works. I wonder if that was the trade. Hint, hint. Ike Davis signing with the Rangers. Red Sox signed Carlos Marmol, a man who was at one time the Cubs closer.
That's right. How many decades ago was that?
Actually not as far back as you think. He's definitely now going to be on the Red Sox, or he's got a minor league deal. Look at this name. Speaking of Red Sox, he's a former prospect of them. Matt Merton.
Matt Merton
Returns from Japan to re-sign with the Cubs, who was, not his original team. That was the Red Sox. But Matt Merton returns, and a little bit of trivia you didn't know. Matt Merton was traded. And get this name, and I didn't even really realize this, until I seen this, was Merton was traded with a certain third baseman to the Oakland A's back in the Rich Harden deal with Josh Donaldson.
Wow.
I do not even remember that he was a Chicago Cub, but Merton, actually the other name in that deal, because Josh Donaldson, we all know what he went on to do with the A's, and obviously what he ended up doing with the Blue Jays.
I thought Donaldson came up through the A's system. I didn't realize he was in that deal.
Actually, and you would think I would have known that, but I couldn't believe that. Yeah, I'm like, I want to kick somebody in the Cubs for making that trade. But they do have Chris Bryan, so, I can't
Chris Bryan, one of the best third baseman in baseball, and one of the 29 who are better than Justin Turner.
We will actually be, funny you mention that, we'll also be talking about the third baseman. FFT will take place next show, and we will have a couple of those names we just mentioned there. Some more news real quick before we wrap this one up. We have your Dodgers signed Cuban Yasiel Sierra, and he was now on the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yes,
do you think he'll make this rotation here?
Almost anybody could make this rotation. You could take somebody out of the stands and make this rotation, I think. But he's got a good upside. He's 24 years old, fastball in the mid to high 90s, performed well in Cuba, had a little bit of a down half season towards the end of the year this year, but I think it was a good investment by the Dodgers.
How many Yasiels do you want on your team?
Only one. The outfielder needs to go. The outfielder, along with Andre Ethier,
I heard that both of them were not going to be traded. That was just a rumor mill I'd seen. So,
well, who wants Puig? I mean, I know the Arizona Diamondbacks do, but other than that,
you just want the whole entire Dodger nation to come after you.
Well,
I'm still waiting for you to be attacked by Alyssa Milano at some point.
Well, that would be all right, though.
Yeah, not in a good way. Just wrap it up real quick. We got Indians signed Juan Uribe. Speaking of former Dodgers and Mets, I believe he finished that year with, right? As a utility man or third baseman. Ray signed Ryan Webb for their bullpen. Another name we're still out there we forgot to mention is Pedro Alvarez. That's kind of surprising. He's still out on the market.
That does surprise me.
I have not heard he was linked to anybody particular. I know that he could have been a name the O's were looking at before their Fowler was connected to him, but
I've heard of no other team.
Yeah, I know. It's just that is sad. The Indians also signed Tommy Hunter, the former Chicago Cub, who was finished kind of strong with he's former Oriole as well.
Good move by the Indians.
So that's probably a low risk move for them, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this final bit of news is the passing of Tony Phillips.
Yeah,
and sad news. So we want heartfelt condolences to the family of Tony Phillips, all his family and friends. So
and his former teammates. He played 18 years in the major leagues and was a member of the 1989 Oakland A's World Championship team. And from all I've heard from people who knew him, just a great guy.
Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, if anybody who's been a fan for a while, like we both have, remember Tony Phillips, one of the premier players in baseball, and that's sad news for
18 years
baseball.
In the major leagues.
That is a long time. And he a lot of second base, a lot of utility. He was just all around great player, and he'll be missed. Definitely.
Clutch hitter. He will be missed. Rest in peace, Tony.
Yeah. So we're gonna go. We had a lot of news here, so we're gonna be heading to our first station break, but we have our first. We only have one per show here. We're going to have our special Who Am I of the Week, and we'll be right back after that. So we're going to head to it right now. Our Who Am I? I played for the Boston Red Sox and Milwaukee Brewers. I am a 5-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove Award winner, 3-time Silver Slugger Award winner, and I won the Roberto Clemente Award in 1983.
I wonder who this could be. I'm still
See if
baffled.
It helps you get this. And when I played, my nickname was Coop. So when we return, we'll find out who am I.
We'll be right back.
The Fast Pitch will return in just one moment.
Some of us seem to strike out whenever it comes to taxes. If you need help getting out of the dugout, Serenity Tax and Financial Services is here to help. They take care of everything from tax preparation and audits to liens and levies and much more. They have offices in Los Angeles and Lancaster, California. If you want to hit a home run with your taxes, check them out at serenitytaxhelp.com for more information.
And we are back on a fast pitch game 12. And we have our Who Am I reveal. And none other than the great Cecil Cooper.
Cecil Cooper. You had me fooled there, and it's funny you mentioned that because I had a chance to talk with Cecil at the Milwaukee Brewers Fantasy Camp.
Surprise of the week, folks, as Ed the Red had asked us earlier. We shall deliver, and we're going to head right here. We're not going to waste any time. Special interview conducted by Doctor himself, and we can't wait to hear this and hear from you guys after it. So we're going to take it away now to a special interview that the Doctor had with Cecil Cooper coming up right now.
I'm here with Cecil Cooper, 5-time Major League All-Star and a 1983 winner of the Roberto Clemente Award. Cecil, thanks for being with us today. I wanted to ask you a couple questions. Other than yourself, who was the best player you ever saw on the field?
Well, I played with two pretty good players, Paul Mahler, Robin Yount.
You got sunglasses?
I would have to put those two guys right at the top. I'd also have to say that Fred Lynn was one of the better players that I was around, could throw, play defense, could run, hit for power. And those first two guys I mentioned, Yount and Mahler, they didn't even need coaches. They knew how to do everything. Right. And I think that's the reason they're in the Hall of Fame.
Right. What's your favorite memory in the MLB? What's your favorite memory of all the time you played baseball?
Well, I would have to go back to the American League championship series against the Angels, getting the base hit to basically win the game for us. And that was by far the biggest moment. And it's something that will never go away.
That's right.
I'm around Brewer people all the time and fans, and they still remember that.
Something fans will never forget.
Never forget it.
One last question. If you could ask a reporter any question in the world, what would you like to ask him?
Why you guys ask some of those silly questions?
And we are back, and just a nice few questions he asked of Cecil there.
Yeah, Cecil was very friendly and shared some interesting things. Now, he was a big star, you might remember, from the 80s.
Yes, huge Brewers legend.
Were you even born yet?
I don't think so, but you would have been 50 years old at that point?
Yeah, I saw that coming. But
Don't set me up like that.
Brewers legend and very well known in Milwaukee and among Major League Baseball. So it was fun talking to him.
Also the manager of the Houston Astros was not mentioned, should have been in our Who I Might reveal. That's okay. Just incredible. 5-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove Award winning. Led
the AL and RBIs.
2 times he did,
nice.
in 80 and 83. His All-Stars, 79, 80, 82, 83, 85. That stretch, I think, just when you think of Milwaukee Brewers legends, how could you not think of Cecil Cooper? Great hitter, obviously won the Silver Slugger 80 through 82, 80, 81, 82, excuse me. Three times, so in a row, so that's very impressive for any hitter. And just, as you said, just a great guy. It sounded like we'd love to hear more of that, so definitely. But you had something else you
I do. I had a chance to talk with Bill Schroeder. Schroeder, a 10-year Major League veteran, Brewers catcher, and color commentator now.
Yeah, and that's another special guest we have on this show.
Special guest. So
we're going to get right into it. So, we can't wait to hear this one. We got, folks, stay tuned right now.
And let me mention one thing about Schroeder. He was the fastest Milwaukee Brewer to get to 15 home runs in his career. I think he did it I may be wrong here, but 70 games. And that was broken by Ryan Braun later. But Schroeder got off to a great start.
Very cool.
Okay, so let's hear from Bill.
Yeah, so this taken straight from your travels. So here is Bill Schroeder.
Making the rounds.
All right.
With Bill Schroeder, former Milwaukee Brewers catcher and current announcer. Bill, besides yourself, who was the best player you were ever on the field with?
Myself, right, yeah. Well, Paul Mahler, Robin Yount. Those guys, I was so fortunate to play with those two guys for a number of years with the Brewers, and then I went over to the Angels, and I played with guys like Lance Parrish and, Wally Joyner and, Chuck Finley. I've been blessed to be able to play with guys that not only were very good on the field, but understood their responsibility as role models. Guys are, these days, not everybody. There are some that are still good. Jonathan Lucroy is really good about it, but they don't understand, the responsibility that they have to young people and giving back to the community. And the Brewers have a number of guys like that. Ryan Braun's another guy. So, all aspects of the game, their playing abilities, how they run the clubhouse and helping other players, and and the way they were handling themselves in the community.
Right.
It's important.
Yes, it is. What's your most memorable moment from your playing career?
Well, catching Juan Nieves' no-hitter in Baltimore back in 1987. It was one of those cold, wet, rainy days. It was part of our 13-0 start in the 87 season. That was game number 9, I believe it was, on tax day. So tax day, April 15th, is a good and bad case scenario for me when I wake up. I always end up paying taxes, but then I have the no-hitter to fall back on.
One last thing. You were inducted into the Brewers Wall of Fame last year, and all of us at the Fast Pitch would like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Those of us who have known you and worked with you for a few years are really happy for you.
Thank you. And, it means a lot to me because, the Brewers organization has been great to my family. Just about everything I have is because of the Brewers. And being up there with all those great players, it kind of gives me a sense that I'm part of the history of baseball in Wisconsin. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Bill Schroeder. Some great comments from Bill.
Yeah, Bill, sounded like a real fun guy. You can tell the East Coast accent from him.
Yes.
He was born in Maryland.
Maryland, he was, a lot of fun to talk with.
Yeah, and congratulations to Bill. And he shared, it was weird, I was looking a little, this shared the same nickname as a former football player. They were both named Rock. Bill Schroeder. So, but this Bill was, actually his real name was born Alfred William Schroeder.
I didn't know that. I would have brought that up.
I know. He may have slugged you. But, he shares Alfred from Bruce Wayne's butler.
That's
Batman,
true, and
Butler
from Mad Magazine, Alfred E. Newman.
Yeah, Alfred E. Newman, caught the no-hitter he explained on there. That was really cool. As you asked him that, it was one of his favorite memories on tax day. And, I looked at this, too. He obviously had a nice career with the Brewers and stuff, too. He finished with 303 hits. Can you believe 61 of those hits were home runs?
That's an incredible percentage.
Just a lot of power there. His slugging percentage had to be through the roof.
Yeah, and he's, as we mentioned, the Brewers commentator now, color commentator. And Craig and I have known him and worked with him for a few years. Craig's known him for a long time. You won't find a better guy.
Sounds just like a great dude, yeah. And what a great interview you got. And that was, you got some of these interviews from the Brewers Fantasy Camp?
Brewers Fantasy Camp. Craig was the producer of the broadcast there for all of the fans and the campers that participated.
And we want to, definitely a big plug to Craig's podcast. He had, a couple great shows there that actually can find more of the interviews and more of the stuff it
was a lot of fun.
Full interviews he did with some of these great players too. So definitely Craig. We'll hopefully get Craig to plug exactly where they could find that same YouTube channel. As of course our Fast Pitch, and I'm sure Craig, if he doesn't have it on the beststation.net already, those will definitely be up there. Full shows where you great fans can listen to those.
We had
as well.
quite a broadcast team. We had a color commentator, play-by-play, and I actually did the whole camp on the field doing interviews with players, coaches, even got up in the stands with some fans. So, last year I did the play-by-play, but it was a lot of fun doing it this year.
Yeah, it sounded like, and just to add the Red Ortiz as well as other fans know, we'll have a few more of these special interviews hopefully coming up in the next show. Definitely next show for sure, and hopefully maybe the following show. So definitely stay tuned right here on the Fast Pitch for that.
And as spring training rolls in, as you know, I'll be out there every day, and I'll be talking to people for our show.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll hope, who knows who may show up on the Fast Pitch.
That's right.
It could be anybody.
And if you want to give us feedback on your favorite player you'd like to hear from, I'll see what I can do.
Yes, definitely. Please send us. So you know where we can reach us at the Fast Pitch MLB, Facebook.com, the Fast Pitch. Let us know. And before we head to our final station break, I just want to announce, obviously, as we stated earlier in the show, we're going to have a bit of a new change twist on our trivia. As trivia appointment is gone, but we're replacing it with what we're calling Fast Pitch Feud. And to take it from one of our favorite game shows, kind of like the Fast Money Round, there's going to be 3 questions, though, and that we will ask. This will start next show, so it's going to be coming up soon. The winner who guesses all 3, which would give you all full points, or finishes with the most points, closest to the point total, is then eligible, for the prize drawing in case we get a tie. And that will be announced next show by Dr. Baseball. He's got a great prize that kind of ties into one of the questions. But I'm excited for it. We're polling
I am too.
A lot of undisclosed number of baseball fans.
Yes.
And whoever gets the questions as close as you can right, or all of them, they'll be eligible in a drawing for a special prize. And this will keep it fair. So there's not going to be any Chuck Boyer bashers, like no fair
and
player.
Chuck may win.
And Chuck may win. Chuck is on the ball.
I've known Chuck for a long time, and I consider him to be more of a statistical reference person than the Elias Sports Bureau.
Chuck himself had some feedback for you saying you didn't even phrase a trivia question correctly one time.
You know, he did, and now let me just briefly address that.
Yes.
It was regarding the Dodgers signing a new starting pitcher that might be in their rotation. We were talking about Joe Blanton, and Chuck insisted that Joe will be a reliever for the Dodgers.
And he may well be.
But when they signed him, the press release said, starting pitcher Joe Blanton has signed. So, Chuck, I hate to take you to task.
And Joe he was a reliever for the Pirates last year, and he was, I think he would be safe to say he was, in your defense, he was more of a starter
for most of his career
than a reliever. But Chuck is not wrong either, because he was used as a reliever basically exclusively last year. So just so we don't have any problems there, Chuck, just do your best as you normally do, and you'll be eligible for a prize. If you get him right, you will be eligible for a prize drawing, which means he could still win.
That's right. And I want to thank Chuck, too. He's a big supporter of the show, and he gets a lot of his friends to listen and like our page. So
Chuck's on top of it, and we were razzing him before about trading prizes and stuff. And Chuck, if you win this one, you can trade and do whatever you want. So we definitely want you to keep listening, Chuck, and we do not condone the comments bashing of you from other fans.
No, we don't. I'm not going to have that anymore.
No. So this keeps it fair for everybody. We love all of our listeners. So Chuck, please guess on this one. It's going to be a lot of fun on next show. So, and this next Game 13 will be coming up very soon. So because of our little bit of delay between 11 and 12, we're gonna get right into the second part of the first part of what was going to be coming up, which as we go into the station break here, we just kind of want to set up a special interview by you, Doctor, with Seth Swirsky.
Swirsky, yes.
Sounds like from everything you're about to tell us here, a little bit of a preview. It just sounds like a great dude and a lot of
great guy. I was in Los Angeles last week and met with Seth. And here's a guy who not only has written 3 best-selling baseball books, his baseball trilogy, he calls it. He was nominated for a Grammy Award. He's a songwriter and musician also. Very knowledgeable guy, but a very friendly and a guy who has a lot of humility, as you'll hear during the interview.
Look forward to it. So we're going to have part 1. We're going to go to our station break, pay the bills here. When we come back, immediately, we're going to jump right into the doctor's interview with very special guest, Seth Swirsky. We will be right back. You are listening to thebeststation.net, home of the best station, the best music for the best audience. Now featuring the best podcasts for the best audience. With such podcasts as The Fast Pitch, starring MC Brown and Dr. Eric Lenneberg, covering any and all related MLB news and current events. And now featuring The Comic Casters, starring MC Brown, Colt Hudson, and Derek Ross. On location for comic book conventions, reviewing comic book trades and collections, and anything and all related comic book movies, news, and events. This is a presentation of thebeststation.net. The best station, the best music for the best audience.
Don't let this happen to you. Introducing all-natural creatine. Take a look at the pictures. The results don't lie. In just 1 week, go from pumping 2.5 pounders to this. Never cheat yourself again.
If it wasn't for creatine, I'd still be on that bed.
Guys, gonna get a little help over here?
Creatine is made of all-natural supplements and fairly priced at $39.99 at your local GNC store.
Creatine.
Side effects may include nausea, heartburn, cramping, acne, and in some rare cases, blindness.
Welcome to The Fast Pitch. I'm Eric Lenneberg, and today we have a very special guest with us, Seth Swirsky. Seth, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Seth has written 3 baseball books, and the first one, The Baseball Letters, came out in 1996?
Yes.
Yes. And I remember reading that and being profoundly influenced by that when I was a reporter back then. How did you get the idea for that book, Seth?
You know, I love baseball so much, and I started to get into baseball memorabilia and things like that. And my first son was born right around that time, Julian. and baseball had gone on strike right around, I think it was 94, September
Yes.
of 94. And I thought, he's going to grow up without baseball? My son who was just born? That can't be. So I started to just like look up who was still living from the 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. I did all this research, and I found out guys who, the first guy to give up Babe Ruth's home run, or the guy who pitched to Ty Cobb struck him out but didn't even know it until he read about it the next day. These guys were alive. So I just wrote letters to them and asking about some of these plays and other things about their lives. And before I knew it, there were 8, 9, 10, 15 letters that would come back to my house every day that I just enjoyed. So I never thought of it as a book. I never do any of the things I do artistically. I never really think about them. I just do them.
Right.
And then before you know it, it turns into something. A book, a movie, a record, whatever. And that's how they turn into what the title is, Baseball Letters.
Were you surprised to get so many back from them?
Every day was Christmas.
Yes.
It really was. I'd open up the mailbox. There was a whole handwritten letter from Duke Snider. I mean, that kind of thing, It was just magical, in the way that baseball is, but you never know all the dimensions of it.
That's right.
So I experienced that, and before I knew it, I was on the Today Show talking about baseball. I'm sitting there with Al Roker, and I'm thinking, how did I get here? Wait a minute. I'm a guitar playing songwriter. What am I doing here? So it was all good.
Yeah. Now, your follow-up book was called?
Every Pitcher Tells a Story.
Okay.
And I decided to do a book on pitchers, their letters to me as well, because I was just so taken by the fact that if you asked a pitcher who was 85 years old about one game, it doesn't even have to be a famous game, one game and a particular at-bat from a utility second baseman, it could have been, he'll remember the pitch count, what he threw him, and where it was. And pitchers have a remarkable and uncanny memory of almost every pitch they've thrown. So I figured if I asked him about certain situations, like Goose Gossage when he, ended the famous Bucky Dent game, he was on the mound and he threw that pitch to Carl Yastrzemski and popped it up. And if you remember, Craig Nettles caught the ball, but he kind of did a basket catch off of his shoulder. I wondered if he was a little nervous, Gossage,
I was watching that game,
You remember, right? And they all just seem to remember the exact, everything that happened. They have a particularly uncanny memories. So that's what Every Pitcher Tells a Story was. And my third in the trilogy was, in 2003, a book called Something to Write Home About, where I had letters, I had correspondence going with people that had an interesting story about themselves in baseball. So before I knew it, I was getting letters from Paul McCartney telling me his experience of hearing a Beatles song in the 7th inning stretch when he attended the Yankee World Series.
That is fascinating. That's something you'd never think of.
Oh my God, George W. Bush, as president, he's writing to me all about, handwritten on White House stationery. I get a letter, a manila envelope comes to my house. It says the White House on it. He's writing about being a little leaguer. And he was the only president that was ever in a little league baseball.
Oh, wow.
Era. So he's writing all about him and his dad. His dad used to play first base for Yale. And presented Babe Ruth with a trophy in New Haven at Yale. So then I just was writing to everybody. I mean, it really became a thing, and just fantastic things. One other quick one I want to mention to you about this particular book. I got a guy who was Martin Luther King's photographer. Martin Luther King came, and you're thinking, Seth, what are you? How does this tie into baseball?
Yes.
I want to hear this. And his name is Flip Schulte. His name is, and. He came home from, Martin Luther King was coming home from giving a sermon one day, and he said, Flip, I want you to come over to my house and take some pictures. I just found out I won the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm in a terrific mood. I want you to come over. So he grabs his camera, goes over to his house, and he said, I'm in such a good mood, I just want to bring my kids into the backyard. And what did he do to celebrate Martin Luther King? He played baseball with them.
Oh,
and
my
there are all
gosh.
these photographs of Martin Luther King playing baseball.
Yeah.
And his letter describing what happened. So that's what Something to Write Home About is about. It's not just celebrities; it's also ball players as well.
Right.
But I expanded the whole thing into this. That was the third in my trilogy.
That's powerful. That is a powerful story right there.
Yeah.
I assume you play catch with your son whenever you get a chance.
Oh my God! Is there anything like it?
No, I have a son also who's 27 years old now, so I don't see him as much. But every time I see him, out come the gloves and out come the baseball. And it isn't just playing catch, it's talking.
Oh, yeah.
Catching up on things.
It's the same with going to the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the only time that men go to the park to talk with other men.
That's right. That's right.
It's a ballpark, but it's a park.
Yeah.
And nothing like it when you bring your kids or your good friends. You know, it's just there's something about the milieu of baseball. You're just being around it.
And Seth, you had an amazing memorabilia collection, including the Bill Buckner baseball. And as I was just looking, you had a letter from the pitcher that gave up Babe Ruth's 60th home run.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I love to collect things that really were part of history, the real things, you know, and or recollections from people that, you know, took part in the history of the game. So, you know, I had the cleats worn by Joe Sewell, who took over for. Now, of course, I'm going to blank on the name. The guy who was hit in the head and died from the Cleveland Indians, and
he was hit by Carl Mays. I can't remember the batter's name.
He's the shortstop.
Yes,
and he was
Ben Chapman.
That's
or Ben.
No, Ray Chapman.
Ray Chapman. Yeah, Ben was the Phillies manager that gave Jackie Robinson so much trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ray Chapman was hit by a pitch, and the ball actually hit his head.
Yeah.
And came back out to the mound. The pitcher thought it hit his bat, and he threw him out at first base. And he started to run down to first base, and then just collapsed and died the next day. And I had this. They needed to fill the spot of being of a shortstop. You know, Cleveland was in the pennant race that year, 1920, summer of 1920. And they found this young guy in the University of Alabama, 17 years old, Joe Sewell.
Wow.
So I had Joe Sewell's cleats, the cleats he wore when he took over. So he stepped into the shoes of Ray Chapman. I love the poetry of the game.
Yes.
It was pieces like that. Now, I got something like that for, what, $100, $150? But it was the follow-up. I wrote to his son, who wrote me a whole letter back about, you know, his dad, his recollections of, you know, his dad and stuff like that. And then I found Ray Chapman's sister, who was 96 years old at the time. And she wrote a whole letter, 4-page letter to me, talking about how she found out about her brother's death and what it did to her family. And things like that. I would always look to get a terrific piece and then to put stuff around it.
Right.
So I always say to collectors, it's not really about the size of your bank account.
Right.
It's the size of your creativity.
Yes.
Which is limitless. You have $1 billion creativity if you unleash it.
Mm-hmm. When did you first get interested in baseball? As a little boy, or?
I loved baseball since about 1967 is my first memory. I loved Carl Yastrzemski. I didn't know that you weren't allowed to like the Red Sox when I was growing up on Long Island.
Oh yeah, that was against the rules.
That was against the rule. And the Yankees weren't any good in the late 60s.
That's right.
But I did love Mickey Mantle. And it was just, you know, really great to be able to talk to my dad about it, because my dad my parents had me when they were 18.
Oh.
So my dad loved Mickey Mantle when he was, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
And here I was, 8, 9, 10 years old and getting the end of Mickey's career.
Yeah.
So that was a fun thing to talk about. Loved Mickey. Loved watching him strike out even. Just his stance and his swing. There's something magic about it.
There was.
And then being part of, when the Mets got great in 1969. I took a transistor radio. Every day I went to day camp, and I was playing shortstop for my team.
Yeah.
When the ball was pitched, and it was, let's say, a ball, or the batter swung and missed, I picked up the transistor radio, which I had right at my feet, and I would be listening to Ralph Kiner.
Yeah.
Saying, because there were so many day games.
They were.
I
remember being in grade school,
right,
and skipping out of class to go listen to the game on a transistor radio. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That was a real part of kids' lives back then, the
Yes.
transistor radio, especially in New York. And in 69, I was lucky enough that it was the Mets and the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
And, we also had the Jets.
That's right.
It was all
Joe
in that.
Namath.
69-70 wraparound was one magical year if you were 9 years old living in New York.
Yes. Yes. Did you go to college out here, or?
I went to Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just to get back 1 second about growing up with baseball, I used to I collected. The first thing I ever collected was the '69 Top set.
Yes.
Which I still think is one of the best sets. I'm not a collector of cards.
Right.
But I loved that set, and it was so much fun to scale cards up against the wall.
Yes, I used to do the same thing. Yeah.
And wasn't that fun? I mean, there are some things that we could say were just, if you could transport me back.
Yes.
If you just want pure fun, and if you could get that feeling again.
Yes.
You know, we used to put 10 cards against another guy's 10 cards, and we used to scale them, and whichever leaned up against the wall or was closest to the wall, and bend them, so we had our own ways of doing it. And there was just nothing like that. I can't tell you how many times I was late for class and got scolded by my third grade teacher, you know.
You know, that's it. Thanks for bringing that up, because I haven't thought of that probably in 30, 40 years, but I did the same thing with my friends. Yeah.
Is that fun?
Yeah, that was a blast. Excuse me. Did you ever play baseball, Little League? And
I played Little League, but I never played on my high school team. I don't know that I would have been good enough. I was a good ball player, but by the time I was, you know, I don't know, probably earlier than this, but by the time I was 10, 11, 12, I wanted to be a Beatle.
Yes.
And that's about it. That just continued to crowd everything else out.
Yes.
So it was about just playing my guitar all the time, taking it to school with me on many days, taking it every day to camp.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was just always learning new chords, playing, and I ended up becoming a songwriter. Now I make solo records and I have a band as well, but you know, it just continued to lead for me, and it was less about sports and more about music.
Yes. Yeah, and I want to get into that in a little bit. Have you ever met Vin Scully?
Yes, I have, as a matter of fact. I was interviewed by Vin Scully
at
Dodger Stadium when my third book, Something to Write Home About, came out. And it's a funny story. It was a very hot day. I remember driving over to Dodger Stadium. I forgot. There was a lot of interviews at that time. You don't usually forget an interview you have with Vince Scully.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, of course not.
So it was my fault. It was some kind of, there was a lot going on that week, whatever it was. It happened to be a very hot week in LA. It got all jumbled up. So I quickly ran out of my house, and I was wearing jeans and, you know, just normal stuff.
Like we are right now.
Exactly.
Yes.
Very casual.
Yes.
LA weather, you know. LA clothes. And I get to the Dodgers restaurant downstairs, and they have a little stage up there. And they said, Mr. Scully will be coming down in a minute or two. And he comes down the stairs there. I'm telling you, I don't know, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and he has a suit and a tie on.
Yeah.
His hair is perfect. I mean, he was just such class.
Yes.
The first thing he says to me is, I just want to tell you, and I was about to tell him, oh my God, my dad grew up listening to you. I've known about you for so long. I don't think you know. There's so many things you could say.
Yes.
And he said, no. He goes, I want to tell you, I am honored to be interviewing you. This was, and it wasn't particular to me.
Yes.
I know he says this to other people. It's so, he's so gracious, so respectful.
Yes.
So I was just stunned by that. We do this interview where, like, he's interviewing me like he would interview, you know, I don't know, Tommy Lasorda or Steve Garvey. I mean, you know, a real interview, you know. I'm sitting there and trying to answer his questions. We get done with the interview, and I said, listen, I think there's something I want to show you. I think it's something you'd be interested in. I went into my bag. I said, do you recognize this ball? I said, this is the little roller up along first. And it was the ball that went through Buckner's legs.
Buckner, yes.
That Vin Scully, he was the announcer.
Yeah.
He goes, I can't believe you're showing me this. He goes, this is something. So we took a picture, me and him, with holding the ball. He goes, you got to go outside. They're doing batting practice right now. The Marlins are out there.
Right.
Now, don't forget, it's 2003, so the Marlins ended up going on to win the World Series that year.
That's right.
I'm out there. He goes, you got to show Bill Robinson this ball, because he was the first base coach for the Mets in '86.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So there I am on the field. Now, I've been on fields before, but not really that much when you're part of batting practice.
Right.
You know, it's still quite a thrill.
Right.
I said, hey, Bill, I remember you from the Yankees in the 60s. I just want to introduce myself, but Vin sent me out here. Vin Scully sent me. He goes, what do you got in your hand? I said, this is the ball that went through Buckner's legs. He grabbed it. Wait a minute. He grabbed it. He goes, Mike. He points to Mike Lowell.
Yes.
And he goes, you got to come here and see this. Mike Lowell stops the infield stuff he's doing. He comes over and he's holding the ball. He goes, guys, come here. I'm telling you, the entire Marlins team comes over, and they're passing around the ball. They're taking pictures. This was their Bobby Thompson moment, growing up as kids.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I realized. I said, why is this so big to them? I mean, I know they know about it, but this was the moment that Bobby Thompson hit the home run for their generation. It was really one of those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fantastic story. And Ben, of course, coming back for another season next year. I don't even want to think about what happens when he's gone. So
I know.
Yeah.
He's so special. Like, I just put him on during the summer.
Yeah.
I just have the sound on. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a Dodger fan.
Right.
You know, my loyalties are to the Yankees and the Mets.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
For various reasons at various times. I really was. When people say, who do you love, the Mets or the Yankees?
Yeah.
I know it sounds, you know, like you got to choose. It's not. I never met a White Sox and Cubs fan.
No, that's right.
But it might be a little different in New York, you know. I just, for different reasons that go very deep, I love the Mets and I love the Yankees. You know, those late 70s Yankees were just so special too.
Yeah. Yeah, they were. Oh, Reggie Jackson.
Oh, that whole thing was incredible. One quick story about the late 70s Yankees. When I was doing a lot of memorabilia, I would fly to shows in Atlantic City and to see what kind of memorabilia there was.
Right.
And I landed in Philadelphia to get to Atlantic City in an incredible snowstorm. I'm trying to find a cab. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Anyway, a cab pulls up, and these guys in the cab say, hey, you looking for a ride? I said, yeah, you guys going to Atlantic City? They say, yeah, we're going, right? I get in the cab. There's Cliff Johnson and Brian Doyle from the. I said, am I really in the cab? Well, first of all, he said, yeah, we're going to be picking up Reggie in a minute, too. Are you just, you know, I am going to Atlantic City with these guys in the car. Now, it turned out that I also had the ball. You remember when Reggie hit 3 home runs in the 77 World Series?
Yeah.
Of 3 different pitchers.
How can you forget that?
I had the ball, the 3rd home run ball.
Is that off Charlie Huff?
Yeah, the Charlie Huff ball. Reggie had written the number 3 on it and then wrote all the records he broke. Being Reggie, you know he was going to celebrate
Reggie,
it.
that's right.
But that was a thrill because, you know, well, of course, you know, my dad was at the game. I watched it. It was a big deal in New York. It was a big deal in baseball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Seth, we're running out of time here. So what I'd like to do is ask you if you could stay, and we're going to talk some more and do a 2-part interview, which will be a first for the Fast Pitch MLB.
Terrific. I'd love to.
Okay, thanks, and we will be back.
What a great first part of the interview with a lot of good stories from Seth.
Great stories from Seth.
And I just need to mention this because you need to be made aware that you should have told Seth, you know personally, a Chicago Cubs and a Chicago White Sox fan because they're sitting right across from one.
Yes, it just slipped my mind at the time. And
so Seth, when you hopefully are listening to this back, your good buddy Eric knows a Chicago fan of all Chicago teams, and that is MC Brown. So I just need to mention that.
Yes, I'm glad Seth will be listening. So,
and I will not hold anything against Seth for being a fan of both New York teams because
a lot of people are actually. You're a fan of both Chicago teams.
And he's loyal to his team, even though he lives in California.
Yes, he is.
So.
Just a fascinating guy. All the stories, the Bill Buckner baseball.
I know. And I know I would take a picture probably flipping the bird to the ball if being a huge Bill Buckner fan myself. So I can't wait to hear the rest of this interview, folks. We unfortunately are out of time ourselves here. So we want to thank Seth. We want to thank all of you great listeners for your feedback. Craig Best, personally. So Craig had a lot of work to assemble this show together. Without his help, folks, we would not be able to bring the show to you.
It wouldn't be here.
So we definitely want to thank Craig personally, and we want you all to stay tuned because very shortly we will be recording Game 13, which will also drop later on this week for you. So you're going to have twice the fast pitch this week, and every part of your all your favorite, great segments from the back ends of our shows will be at the front end of Fast Pitch Game 13, along with the second part of the Seth Swirsky and maybe a few other interviews, too, that we promised for you.
Possibly.
So I want to thank you again for the Fast Pitch. I'm your co-host, MC Brown.
I'm Eric Lindenberg.
And we'll be back very soon, folks, with Game 13. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been the Fast Pitch. This has been a presentation of the Best Station. The best music for the best audience. TheBestStation.net.